Subway was a mistake, and it wasn't even supposed to exist. However, it grew to become the fastest growing franchise in the world in 2015, having more than 42,000 locations in over 100 countries, and got crowned as the biggest single brand restaurant chain and the largest restaurant operator in the world. But Subway's history is not entirely spotless, and in this video, we'll tell you about the good, the bad, and the ugly that this famous restaurant brand doesn't want you to know. Every restaurant has a gimmick, something that makes them stand out. And fast food restaurants need to stand out, considering the industry's cutthroat nature and consumers' fickle tastes. Subway came into the industry promising something different. It preached the gospel of authenticity, freshness, deliciousness, and also showmanship as customers watched their food's preparation. Customers worldwide couldn't get enough of seeing the sandwich artist make their sandwich in front of them. Those in the UK fell in love with the concept so much that the chain opened around 2,500 stores there. Seeing an expert preparing their meal in front of them made customers feel in control, as they could ask for whatever they wanted and see it get put in their sandwich. But how did this all begin? It began with a teen and a doctor who had a common dream. Fred DeLuca was born in Brooklyn, New York on October 3, 1947, to Carmela and Salvatore DeLuca, who were Italian Americans. When he was 10, the family moved to Amsterdam, New York, where he and his family met and became friends with Peter Buck. The DeLucas then moved when Fred was a teenager to Bridgeport, Connecticut. There, he graduated from Central High School in 1965. Before he graduated, he had already opened his first sandwich shop in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which he called Pete's Super Submarines. Why name his shop Pete's Super Submarines? It was because of Peter Buck. Remember him? Fred dreamed of attending college and medical school, but there was one problem. There was no money. So, to solve his funding issue, the teenager began to think. After thinking about it, he went to Peter Buck for ideas. Peter had gone to college and even gotten a doctorate in physics. So Peter suggested that Fred begin in business if he was serious about making money for college. Then, the two men began to deliberate. After brainstorming, the two decided to settle with a sandwich shop. But remember, Fred didn't have any money. So, Peter decided to give him $1,000 in seed money. And in 1965, the two men founded the first Subway restaurant, with Fred deciding to name it after Pete. The business was a hit. The next year, the two men decided to become formal business partners and created a parent company, which they named Doctors Associates. The name they chose had sentimental value to both of them. Peter liked it because he had a PhD in physics, and Fred liked it because it served as a reminder of his ambition to go to college and eventually medical school. After 3 years of operating, the businessmen eventually changed the name of their business to Subway. Fred and Peter began to expand, and after 6 years, they already had 16 locations. But the two men weren't satisfied. They had domination on their minds and concluded franchising would give them the edge they needed. In 1974, they had their first franchise location in Wallingford, Connecticut. However, they weren't good bosses. Despite this, more franchise locations began to open. Eventually, the brand went global as it opened its first location outside of America in December 1984. Other international locations soon followed. And if you like to learn about the history of your favorite eateries, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. In the middle of all these expansions, Fred and Peter were allegedly trying to cheat their franchise owners. An investigation revealed that the company had a contract clause that gave it the power to control and purchase any franchise without cause. The unfairness of this clause was so apparent that the U.S. Small Business Administration made a policy to deny small business loans to Subway franchise owners until Subway removed that clause. But did the company comply? Heck no! But the good thing is, it got into trouble for it. But more on that later. In 1995, franchise owners Nicholas and Victoria Janetta sued Subway for breach of contract and lease. The franchise owners claimed that the chain's founders presented a false value of their franchise locations while the franchisees were negotiating a lease agreement with the company in 1985. The court found the chain liable and awarded $10 million in damages to Nicholas and Victoria Janetta. This wasn't the only time the business would do something like this. It even became notorious for it. Subway is the biggest problem in franchising and emerges as one of the key examples of every abuse you can think of, Dean Segar concluded. This he did after the U.S. House of Representatives Small Business Committee researched the franchise industry from 1992 to 1998. As if to prove the man's point, one of the business's stores in Seattle had a hepatitis A outbreak, but there was no problem as the company escaped getting sued. However, in 1999, it didn't. 2 Seattle branches caused 32 customers to contract hepatitis A. And if you think that's bad, picture the worst. It turned out that the kitchen staff of the affected Seattle branches didn't obey health guidelines by thoroughly washing their hands and using plastic gloves during food preparation. Their negligence led to the contamination of food in the kitchen, which the staff then served to the customers. While the customers who ate the contaminated meal suffered from reports of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, and fever, for one customer, it was a matter of life and death. A 6-year-old boy, due to the hepatitis A infection, developed an acute liver failure. The boy was sure to die unless he got a liver transplant, which, thankfully, he did. While the other affected customers sued the chain and got a settlement of $1.6 million, the 6-year-old boy got a $10 million out-of-court settlement in 2001. This wouldn't be the last of hepatitis A contamination from the company. Okay, remember the clause that allowed Subway to take over a location without cause and how it eventually got them in trouble? In 2003, American soldier Leon Batty Jr. became a franchisee of the brand. In 2005, the United States Army deployed him to Afghanistan to participate in Operation Enduring Freedom. In 2006, the chain seized the location from the soldier. He rejected the business's decision and accused it of violating the U.S. Service Members Civil Relief Act. Leon sued the company in a federal court. The court dismissed the case, but Leon was determined to see the matter through. So he sued the company in state court in Dallas County, Texas. Eventually, after 4 years of legal action, the company decided to settle with the soldier in 2010, but didn't disclose the terms of settlement it had with the soldier. While the business had a knack for causing serious trouble, sometimes some of its issues could seem ridiculous. How else would you describe the company getting into trouble because some of its sandwiches missed size specifications by a few inches? In 2007, KNXV-TV, in partnership with the Arizona Department of Weights and Measures, announced that Subway's giant sub sandwiches missed the advertised 3 foot by several inches. The company immediately responded that it was reviewing its advertising of the giant sub and training its staff to make it according to the correct size. While the company was fixing its 3-foot giant sub, it ran into similar trouble with its foot-long sandwich in Australia in 2013. Matt Corby, a teenager in Australia, posted on Facebook that the company's foot-long sandwich was 28 instead of 30 centimeters. The company replied that Subway footlong is a registered trademark as a descriptive name for the sub sold in Subway restaurants and not intended to be a measurement of length. However, this wasn't enough to save the company from a class action lawsuit premised on the fact that Subway actually lied and that the company intended the word footlong to be a measurement of length. Fortunately for the chain, in 2017, the court threw out the lawsuit, which demanded a $530,000 settlement. This luck also shone on the company after it got another hepatitis A scare in 2015. That year, the Arkansas Department of Health warned customers who had eaten at the Morrilton Subway outlet in Arkansas. The department revealed that the customers may have been infected after a store staff tested positive for the virus. 2015 saw a change in leadership as Suzanne Greco, Fred's sister, became president and CEO of the company. That same year, Fred DeLuca, who had been suffering from leukemia, lost the battle with the disease and died. And since his death, the company began to decline. The chain in 2010 had more stores than McDonald's and Starbucks, and it was the world's largest fast food restaurant. When it began to have problems with stores closing in 2016, it still was a bigger brand than McDonald's and Starbucks. The company tried to fight its decline in 2017 by redesigning restaurants with kiosks for self-order, charging ports at tables, and new menu items. This didn't work, as the business closed 800 more locations, and the next year wasn't any better. The decline in sales was a result of the issues the company had had over time. And still, it wasn't listening to franchise owners who felt the company used too much of the profits on promotion. In addition, the company had also faced allegations of its food items not being fresh, and it began to lose customers to sandwich businesses that could provide healthier options. The business continued to close down stores each year, with the number of stores closing getting worse. As a result, the family eventually decided to sell, and they sold the business to Rourke Capital for $9.6 billion. Subway was a student's idea of getting funds for college, but it became more than a college fund business. It became a worldwide sensation. The business began humbly and has stores in about 100 countries. However, not every aspect of the business has been clean. And in this video, you learned the dark secrets Subway doesn't want you to know. But there's one thing we do want to know. Do you like hamburgers or submarine sandwiches? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support our channel.